Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's design webinar, continuing our theme of design trends for the month of January. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Sam Sloan, Strategic Accounts Manager at Grothouse, as he leads us into the best of both worlds, combining two of the hottest trends for the ultimate in elevated projects. Sam, take it away.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for the intro. As stated, my name is Sam Sloan. I'm a strategic accounts manager with Grothouse Solid Wood Surfaces based out of Pennsylvania. I know many of you are familiar with us, and for those who are not, I hope this gives you a little taste of some of the other things that we're doing and ideas to propel your designs in 2025 and 2026 and onward using a combination of metal and wood and other items in here. So I'm very excited to get started. I love the relationship that we've built over the years with NKBA and thrilled to make your acquaintance if we've not met. And if we have met, well, hello and thanks again and Happy New Year. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what's called anvil, and I'll explain what that is. So the title of it is obviously anvil metal surfaces in your designs, and really talking about that juxtaposition between wood surfaces, other types of services, and then our anvil metal product. So some of you may be familiar, but there are a few new things I'm really looking forward to sharing with you today. So let's just dive in, see what we got here. All right, so a little bit about us. Many of you know us, but again, we're Grothouse Solid Wood Surfaces, been around 26, 27 years. The factory and everything is produced in a little small town called Gurmansville, Pennsylvania, up near Allentown. In that part of the state. Everything is created there and then shipped wherever it needs to go. We custom crate it. We are really the world leading provider of luxury wood countertops, butcher blocks, bar tops, you name it. If we can create it, if you can think it, we can probably create it out of wood. And a lot of times, if you're familiar with us or not, but we have very simple designs to integrate into, let's say, a more modern aesthetic, but also a lot of things that can be done with a very interesting design flourish to maybe fit into some of the older designs, or especially if we're doing renovations and we have various thematic ideas that come out using wood in, let's say, a mid-century modern home, a Victorian home, but even those things that are quite modern, like I think of high rises in Miami or Los Angeles. Everything is made in the United States of America. We are proud of our sustainability, renewability, and eco-friendly practices. As you can see, we use solar panels to help power the plant, which is a nice addition to it. We also utilize and try and keep it at zero waste, recycling much of the sawdust that comes out of our production into wood bricks, and we heat the plant and actually return from time to time power back into the grid. So we try to keep that as the forefront of what we're doing. The wood that we utilize, especially most of it is grown here in the United States from growers that we've been working with for a long period of time. At the same time, if there are those certain wood species that are not available in the United States, we do follow international trade rules for the harvesting of lumber, sustainability, and sourcing. So we know where the wood has come from. And from time to time, you will see that we actually do not import or utilize certain wood species. We'll notify you if that's the case to keep that aesthetic of obviously propelling the growth of new forests and not getting involved in those places that actually cut down old growth. So that's us in a nutshell. So anvil is actually a metal. It's a metal application. It's a coating technology, and in essence is what it is. It's not really a product. It's more of a process. What happens is we are able to take real metal and grind it up to a very fine powder. We then spray it upon the surfaces that we wish to have coated. This also includes natural wood, but we also have different kinds of substrate. And then, as you'll see in some of the imagery that we'll go through today, we are also able to apply it to various geometries and such that really help you as a designer take a look at utilizing metal within your designs, saving you time, saving you a lot of weight and cost. It goes, and actually, as we talk about the word finish, the telegraph, it will actually bring out any items underneath the wood. And so if you've got something where you want to visualize the graining of the wood within it, anvil is a perfect way to do that. The actual graining of the wood will come through. It'll have a metal application on top of it. really stunning. And again, as we go through this, there are many images that you'll see later on. I mean, it's exteriorly rated. And if you want to use it outside, we must use our composite. We couldn't just put it on a piece of walnut or white oak, but we have a composite that's also exteriorly rated. So you could use it. We don't do a lot of that work, but it is durable enough. And we've been testing some around the plant and at several of our team members' homes for several years, and it wears very well. I can't stress enough, this is real metal. It will patina and it will scratch. We have some processes to mitigate some of that, but also for most designers and looking at this, they like the idea that it's a living surface and it's one that will change and alter over time. It's imperfect. We talk about this in wood. It is not a perfect, solid wood is not a perfect surface. This is also an imperfect surface. It will have models and textures. And sometimes wide open spaces, as discussed, will look a little bit different than the edges, but it really does look stunning. And as you look at samples or, get a deeper dive into what we are doing with this, you'll see that. And it's obviously, it's a flexible finish. And, sometimes people don't think about the fact that wood, especially solid wood, moves a tremendous amount. And it can, depending on the environment in which it's being installed. But this finish will move with it and be flexible with it. So you don't have to think about cracking, crazing, all of those things with anvil. So it's a composite. If you're using the composite substrate, it's very smooth. As you can see in the image here, really the best option if someone wants the look of real metal. We can do a thickness of about 1.25 inches. We have an edge profile here. If we need to do a heavier thickness on the composite, we can do a built-up edge and discuss. You'll see some of the maximum sizing, 49 by 194. Seams will show through the metal finish. So we'll have to look at that and looking at field seams. But again, these are all details, but it's something that if you're looking for a perfectly flat, smooth finish that's in metal, the composite substrate's the way to go. Now, solid wood, obviously, it'll show a lot more of what's coming through it. Seams will appear. There's some graining that will come up. Deeper areas will show as black and gray. Finish will be smooth on the top level of the grain. Absolutely stunning. But as an accent, and then third is an accent, we do need a sharp transition. But what we're talking about is an edge, perhaps. And I'll show you some really terrific images of our shelves with this edging, a very sharp transition. It has to be with our Dorada clear coat finish. It cannot, or marine grade finish. It can't be with an oil finish simply because the anvil will not adhere properly. But with now our new Zero Sheen Dorada, absolutely a way to go with a perfectly matte finish with a metal edging. Colors. So this shows 8 of the colors currently. We do from time to time explore different other options, but there's not a customization. It really is from pewter to white gold, bronze. Some of the most popular ones, obviously, are what we call this brass or gold and this stainless steel. We've done a lot of work with those in the past 2 years. The copper also. And as you can see, if you look closely, you'll see some of the patina that's come out on the copper, just really showing the living finish and how that works. These are the 8 colors currently. I don't have any more on other colors coming out, but if we do, we'll make an advance notice. As you can imagine, with the perfection that we try to impart upon the work that we're doing and with our clientele, we're making sure that every piece is, when it gets sent to market, has been tested thoroughly. So a couple things. So this is, as you can see here, this is a range hood actually that was created. This is a newer part of our business where we were actually spraying on things that we don't build. And so in this case, this is a range hood that was sent to us. We have some prep work that needs to be done prior to getting to us, but then we will spray it. And it can save you, again, a lot of weight consideration because of how the weight of a wrapped metal hood can be tremendous also for shipping and those types of things. So again, just demonstrating what this works. You see the curvature, you see some of the edging to make a process that works well. And then obviously we don't do any of the insertion of the actual blowing device or fans. That's done on site when it gets to where it needs to go. But again, consider it as an option. Again, edge treatments, we have all our edge treatments are available. Really what we're looking for are sharp transitions, vertical corners, 1/8 inch minimum. These again are details that we will walk through very clearly with you. So you can't, I don't want you to think that we're going to leave you just sort of hanging out there. We go through all of this in a very detailed format. And we can also do engraving. It looks pretty cool. You'll see it on some of the, if we do a dealer display, for example, our name will be engraved in it. Sometimes people do it. It's always done before the metal's put on there, and it really looks kind of cool. If you get a sample kit of ours, there are two actually that have some cross hatching and other things demonstrating how the anvil gets in the depths of it, what it looks like, and the sort of contrast between light and dark. We can also do some hand planing, distressing. Really, again, depends on the individual application, but it's something that is available. We'd be happy to talk more about it with you if you do have a particular project like that. And then finish, as we've discussed a little bit, but the two finishes, you can leave it open. It's a raw metal finish, it's actual metal. It will patina, it'll tarnish, it's a living finish. Things will leave rings. You can polish it out. And if someone wishes to do so, that's really if your client is not so sure about a ring here and there, we will probably direct them to go to the marine grade finish. What we find is designers love a raw metal finish, and it is just a beautiful accent piece, especially. But often, once this is installed in a client home, and they're not, they have one ring on one side and one on the other. Sometimes we will then, find that they will want to go to the marine grade finish. But it really is just a beautiful, beautiful accent. The marine grade finish, or what we call dorada, it is can be sprayed right on the surface at the factory. It is going to basically lock in the color and lock in the finish. It'll have the raw metal look, but it won't patina, and it also protects it from rings and water. It does only come in a 35 sheen, so it will have a little bit of shine to it. But again, for the right application where you don't want to see fingerprints or anything, a terrific way to do that. So, the other element is sort of how does this fit and where does it go? And in this case, here's a beautiful island with a sink, multiple surfaces. Now, in a lot of ways, and a lot of designers would, just have one large slab if it would fit. They might even have to seam it. In this case, they really wanted to break up the side, the working piece around the sink, create a little bit of a buffer zone. And so what we've done is also obviously sprayed a large piece of probably walnut underneath there with an anvil bronze coating to give it a little bit of a darker feel, but also that metallic look to it, breaking up that space, and then also pulling in a contrast with the blue of the cabinetry, just creating like almost two rooms in one in what would otherwise be a very large space. And you can think of this in a lot of different ways. And just remember with the marine grade finish, even on an anvil, that can be around, it becomes waterproof, and that can be around a sink, in that way. So we could have actually, if so wanted, reversed these two and had the anvil around the sink and the larger piece, and then the stone at the end here. Really up to you. Do take a look at our Instagram website that all has a lot of really detailed imagery and also breakouts of particular projects so you know who did what and how they got there. And here's some details from the factory. So you're seeing here a piece of white oak that has been sprayed with anvil. You can see the detail on the beveled edge. A sink is actually going in that slot. So as you can see, we've cut this out. That will have a sink embedded in it. And, just as you can see what it's done to the wood. Now, this may not be for everybody, but for the right project, and if you, especially, if you're looking at a commercial project or something else, this would be really interesting presentation for your client and not adding a tremendous amount of cost. If you were trying to do this or replicate it in metal, the weight considerations and also some of the cost considerations could be prohibitive. Just walk through it with us and we'll take a look. But I think this is just one of the most stunning examples, especially that graining on the right and the cathedraling of that wood. Absolutely beautiful. And here, a more contemporary, obviously with an idea of a bar, a home bar, more contemporary space, different feel. Obviously, we're looking at most likely, I don't exactly know where this is, but it looks like somewhere near a beach with that crab there. But as you can see with our anvil, we've actually put some studs on the edges of it to break up that surface. It's a curved piece that's solid that goes all the way around and has been installed on that upper elevation of that wall, providing something that is fitting in their space, pulling in colors, and providing a break between the servicing side of the bar and the serving side of the gathering for your clientele or what have you. Really just an interesting way to utilize us and have a breakup of that. But that again is a piece of composite with a anvil spray on it, and most likely has the Dorado. You can sort of tell with the sheen, especially right behind the faucet there, the white of the tile is being reflected in it. That's what you're going to have. But it is giving you just a great way to kind of fit this in. And then don't be afraid of curves. Often as designers, we might get a little bit afraid, like, oh gosh, we've got a curved or a radius edge or what have you. Do think of us, we can create it. And that's what's so great about wood. It is tremendously forgiving and can be fit and slotted in with CNC technology into almost any space. Again, here's another piece from the factory, very large piece. Again, sink cut out. You can see the faucet holes that those two are. This is a single one large piece sprayed with our stainless steel application. Also has the Dorada clear coat on it, or the marine grade finish that you're seeing is the reflection. But again, size is not a limitation for us. We can go very small. We can also go very large. You can see the polish level. It's not going to be polished to the point where it's a mirror finish. That's very difficult to do. And it's not something that we really readily see as an option for most of our clients and designers. But in this case, it's just giving that really metal look, but with a warmth that isn't stainless steel. And it gives you, it sort of warms up the room. The wood itself will absorb sound and create an environment where just softening it, but also utilizing something that's very contemporary and can fit into the most modern of design. Just love this piece. That piece is sent in its entirety. So it is not broken apart or anything else. It is created and then it is crated at the factory and shipped whole. So it was probably on a dedicated truck. And we work with you. We're very conscious of the fact that many places have cul-de-sacs or they go upstairs or what have you. We will work with you to make sure that piece, if you have this, that it comes undamaged, and we've talked through how it's getting into where it needs to go. I have a lot of war stories on that. We can talk about that another time. But in this case, just for this piece, again, a beautiful piece of anvil that would be shipped out whole. And this is one of our newer pieces. We don't normally build range hoods, but you'll see that in this case we did. We built it for a particular client. So that's all wood. We created it and then sprayed it with our anvil. It's called Magnum is our trade name, but it's the brass color up and down. Then you can see that the mechanics are inside of it. It was a custom space. They didn't order one from one of the major hood providers, so we were able to create it. Again, just another option. And we're picking up the accents of the pulls and hardware, some of the other pieces in otherwise what would be a classic white kitchen with the dual wolf range. Just very pretty, and picking up accents of what's nice also as you think about this. If you look at the colors, much of the new stonework we're seeing out there has that metallic, accents and edges and pieces in it. So this is picking up the tile work, as you can see back there, and then also the pieces that are in the stone at the back of the range. So again, really pretty, neat piece. Like I said, we don't normally build them, but we can. It's just a discussion to have with us when you're ready. But also there are many people that will send us unfinished range hoods, many of the major cabinet companies. I know we've just partnered with our friends at Stanisi up in Michigan, offering our anvil colors for certain of their range hoods. That announcement was made earlier this week. Floating shelves. And I know many of you have seen this. This is an iconic piece. Our good friend Matthew Quinn did this a number of years ago with the gilded edge banding on our floating shelves. And floating shelves I could talk about all day long, but I'm not going to. That's not the purpose of this. But in this case, as you can see, we gilded the edges over there, providing a real break and really creating something unique you don't see anywhere else. And then on the lower right here, that's how we actually spray it. So we've taken the shelves. That is, those are those shelves put together, and then the edges would be sprayed and cleaned up to maintain the natural wood that's going to be shown on the shelves top and bottom. So we see this a lot as a accent piece. We feature it in many of our photos. You'll see several of these. And then obviously this particular photograph is probably very familiar, iconic for many of you who follow Matthew's work, but also just seeing what's out there as far as design trends. And again, coming back to the metal heads, this is just giving some of the other hood styles that have been sent to us. Again, as I said earlier, we don't create the hoods. Like we can, but we would prefer the people that actually make them and are the ones that are geared and factory ready to make them, create them. If you've got a company that does that, talk to us about spraying it if you would like to do so. This is some of the different colors that are coming out. This would then get created and wrapped and sent to the job site to be installed and then the hardware fitted to it. Process takes about 5 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks for us to spray, finish, and coat. So it does fall in line, as you're ordering your cabinetry and those types of things to make sure to let us know. But we can operate on a pretty good schedule. We have a good team that is knowledgeable about this process and getting these things taken care of on a timely basis. But yeah, just stunning. I just love it. This is a close-up view of another radius with a little bit of a different edge on it, just showing some of the shine of a flat piece going down a bar. I just thought I picked this image just because it was kind of iconic for showing how that is falling in. If you really focus on this curve that's right at the bottom of this photograph, looking at the way the anvil is getting into some of the deeper areas of it, what the color looks like, the shine on it, you literally cannot do this with metal. Metal itself will warp. It cannot get into those areas unless you're getting something, someone's going to carve it for you. But in this case, this is sprayed on, sealed, and allowing a finish that's going to last for a long time, but also give you something a little bit different to present to your client that's not available anywhere else. And this is a dealer display we did for our friends at Bentwood down in their showroom in Austin, Texas. And it is a unique piece that is our traditional butcher block style. It's about 4 inches thick of a heavy sapwood walnut butcher block, or what we call end grain. And then we've inserted anvil slats in the magnum or the brass coloring all throughout it. It really is a showpiece. Like people walk in, they're kind of wowed by this. The designer who came up with it, Shauna Warda, really just thought outside the box, and we were able to work with her to make this happen. And we've done this several other times for other clients throughout the country. But again, showing where metal can be slotted in, and it would be very difficult to actually use, let's say, solid brass or even sort of bent metal to fit into something like that. This gives you it's perfectly smooth. It still is, you wouldn't want to chop on the metal parts. It's designed to be a chopping surface. In this case, allowing for expansion, contraction, all of those things. But, just what a different element for a showroom, for a commercial project, or for someone's home. It's really, really neat. And then up close and personal here with some of the accents and inlays. Again, here's a beautiful piece. I believe this is most likely looks like an edge grain wenge, which is an African hardwood, or it's a Peruvian walnut, one of the two with that reddish piece to it. But we're showing this is not bolted on. These are pieces, these are rivets that we actually drove in there, sprayed over with the anvil. So that's the edge of the wood that you're seeing there. That would have been coated with Dorada, the edge, just so that you won't get random fingerprints, and it gives a little protection from changes and patina. But this shows you how detailed we can get on a countertop or a floating shelf or some other piece, or even furniture pieces. Really getting in there. And you can see in that center, we're really demonstrating that center photograph. If you look at that, that is such a clean break. It almost looks like a piece of wrapped metal, but without all the warping. Another stunning piece. And then some inlays. These are nail heads. We actually drove in the workers at the guys at the factory, these artisans that work there, the men and women that are working to get these things completed, driving nail heads in this and then spraying. But you can see, again, what we're trying to show is one, the size in the lower right, but the detail and the level at which this anvil and metal accents can get into spaces that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. And you can see some of the shine and reflection, but also the deeper sort of chasms, if you will, the darkness and that juxtaposition between the two. It really just is very evocative and can really set the tone for a centerpiece of your designs utilizing anvil in the future. And then here's our metal banding. So when we talked about similar to the piece that we had 2 times ago, but this is again showing a piece of wood and it curves around, so we can use a curved edge we can use any of the colors. The most popular color for this type of application is our brass or the what we call magnum. It's that brass color or gold color. But we've also done some in our palladium, which is silver, a stainless steel. And then the picture here on the right, that's obviously a dealer display. It has our logo in it and it's got the anvil edge banding, but it's also on a 3/8 inch chamfered or beveled edge with a curve. Again, trying to just demonstrate when you're utilizing this product how precise it can be and the cleanness of it and how it will integrate with other designs in your process for your clientele. Again, just the way it curves around, the shine, the perfection. Again, if you were using actual metal, no matter how great the artisan or how skilled, because of the movement of the wood, remember, you're going to see warping. And over time, those would look warped. And with anvil, it does not. It's flexible and moves with the product. Again, trying to allow you to have some idea for differentiating your designs throughout, whatever sort of themes that you're doing, whether it's, high-end Naples condos to mid-century modern Ventura, California to, lake house in, Chicago or Michigan, or even here in Houston, where I live, doing something. This will fulfill a design element that can work for you across all kinds of styles. And this is something neat. This is a piece that we did last year. It's a little hard to see in this image, but we've actually sprayed the fronts of the doors and drawers of some appliances. Those are, dual drawer refrigerator units. There's a freezer unit, a wine fridge, and there's some grill work underneath it. There's a much better picture online and in our catalog. But again, we can spray almost anything. And many of our clientele will send us door fronts or drawer fronts, and we will spray those with a particular color or finish that they would like. We can leave it open or put burrata on it. Even some style and rail work we've done with certain cabinet companies to provide that metal inlay on the inside of certain cabinet door fronts or drawer fronts. So again, if you've got a project that you think you would like to add a design element like that, please just reach out. We can find a way to make it work. And it's just been something that, again, very different for us to be able to work and get our process, the anvil process, onto different surfacing and creating a design aesthetic for our clients, just above and beyond. You can even see on the top, there's a little bit of a gilding that we've matched with the inside of the sink. It may be hard to see on your screen, but again, we're just trying to pick up the elements and create a repeated motif for you. But then also with the peace of mind knowing that, under normal circumstances, this will wear and tear for a long period of time. Furniture is becoming a much bigger part of our business. We've always done it. It's under the name of Paul Grothouse Furniture, Paul Grothouse being the owner and founder of our firm. But especially post-pandemic, we have found that as architects and interior designers, design build firms are moving into the interiors of homes and not just the exteriors, we've been able to create a lot of furniture pieces. Some are standard licensed designs, but we create a lot of custom work. And a big part of it becomes the anvil. In this case, we have a table that's a rounded oval, fairly simple on the top, but then as you can see, we did the legs. We created the legs and sprayed the base to give it the support. It was a very particular project with this combination, but it worked and it's what the client wanted, sort of a library table base, sort of an old kind of Italian design that has been refit with a lighter wood top that then could be utilized as a dining table or something else. But again, you're going to see that as more and more furniture is created, there's accent pieces that can be done on a custom piece or a legacy piece of furniture. And then here's some of the texture we were talking about. So on the left, you're seeing what can happen, when it is just sort of sprayed and left, and it kind of creates this pitting. It can be polished out, as you're seeing on the right. We can minimize some of that. But in some cases, people want to leave it and allow it to have that sort of rougher texture, creates a much older look. It almost even looks like a worn type of stone in this application on the left of your screen. But you're seeing some of how that anvil gets in there. Now, everything is coated and there's no leakage or anything else, but it's just giving you an idea of what that can look like. It's also picking up underneath some of the imperfections in that surface. And that's what we talked about early on, what that looks like. But it is going to pick up some of that and some of the variations in either your substrate or your surfacing. and then a smoother application as you see on the right, but you're still seeing some of that. And we can leave your piece that's been coated with the anvil, we can polish it fairly highly, or we can leave it in a much more natural or rougher state. And we have, when you order samples from us, you can take a look and see what that looks like. So the benefits really, why would you use this versus other processes? It really allows you to put metal and wood together and metal on surfaces in places that are really traditionally you've been unable to do, simply because of the geometry and complexity of it, or without significant cost and artisanal workmanship. We have a lot of shaping and edging options that are not available. It's actually a lower cost. Often, if you price out let's say a full copper range hood versus, one that's been coated to look like it with the anvil, which actually has the copper in it. A lot of color options that are in a one-stop area we can provide for you. But you're working with us. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to, spend all day talking about how great we are, but we are priding ourselves on the service and the follow through and the artisanal nature of how we create things. It's be nice, you're ordering a wood top, also look at this as an option for you. And, again, important to remember that even the highest end metal counters they're just being wrapped. And you'll see, next time you have a chance, look at some of the metal countertops or even stainless range hoods. You'll see warping, and it's hard. For me, I can't unsee it anymore. And it's not that I, dwell on it, but it's like, oh my gosh, there it is. And then other product channels. So we do shelving, door fronts, drawer fronts, accent pieces, you name it. We can utilize this process to help you realize designs that you're looking for. This is a sample of a kit. So if you do decide at some point, or you go to a designer that is an anvil dealer of ours, this is sort of a kit. What you're seeing, and why it's not just blocks, you're seeing all the colors, but this is great. The one all the way on the left there showing it's a colossal, what's called a colossal or double colossal edge, demonstrating not so much that you're going to be using colossal edges, in your designs, but showing how it gets in, what it'll look like. You can see there's also a piece that has very distinctive grain profile, third one over, a wrapped piece. Again, another one which has a whiteout graining in it, and then some of the variations on the ones over on the right, showing the different levels of polishing and depth. So again, very interesting different pieces to allow you to kind of see what's out there. And then, again, in basically what we're doing, we're trying to do things to allow you to propel your designs and your clients into areas they haven't been before. We have the craftsmen that do it. We have this team that can get it done for you. It's versatile, it's durable, and it's really one of a kind. There's no one else really doing this in the marketplace at a scale and at the level of perfection that we're doing. We would love for you to at least, think about it going forward and see what it looks like as a design possibility for you and your clientele. Happy to discuss more during the Q&A, and that's it. So thank you very much. And for now, let's transition over to our question and answer.
Sam, thank you so much for such an insightful presentation. We have a lot of engagement in the chat and the Q&A, so we're just going to dive right in.
Perfect.
I'll start off with probably the most asked question. How do our attendees get a sample kit?
So you can either become what would be considered a dealer or get a full sample set by just emailing us, and we will send a link to you. It is $800 to get a sample set, but you get all 10 with all the variations, including the wrapping. You could also order individual samples. Those are $50 a piece. Let's say someone doesn't want to make that kind of a commitment. Or has something specific, but the samples can be mailed out or sent out. Nice, sample kit, all the ones that you saw, and then your subsequent samples are free of charge.
Amazing. I know several of our attendees will probably be looking into that and taking advantage. Our next most asked question came in a few different forms, was about the material. Does it need to be resealed? What is the care and maintenance of this material when our designers are selling this to their customers? What can they expect?
Sure. It's a great question, obviously, but so like anything, it's a surface. It is not impervious to all damage. But so to start off, it can, let's say you leave it unsealed with our marine grade clear coat. Little scratches and things will appear from day-to-day use. That is the patinaing, and the surface itself will patina over time. If you do decide to seal the surface, there is not going to be a change in color. It will protect it from some of the damage. It is not, if it's left open, you can polish out some of the blemishes and damage, but remember, now you're polishing back to an original state. So it can get, you might have one polished area and the rest would not be. Um, it is not, it's something, and we will talk through this like on individual projects. We'll always ask where it is. And not to denigrate, but our recommendation is not to have it in a super high traffic area. What we don't want is for this surface to be as a primary surface. Let's say you had a table or something where people are throwing a lot of things on it. It can get damaged and scratch. It just sort of depends on what the client is, but it's fairly durable. We have several projects that have been out there for 10 or 12 years in the field that look as good or close to as good as when they were installed. But then if there is damage, please work with us. We'll help you.
Amazing. We had a few questions come in as you were talking about that, about the material being suitable for different weather conditions. Is it good to use outdoors, or if it's indoors, is it heat resistant?
Great. Yeah, so two things. One, if it's left without the clear coat, because clear coat does, any kind of clear coat will break down in direct UV. You could put it on a piece of our substrate or composite, which is exteriorly rated. It will patina over time. You could do that. We don't have a lot of applications where we've done that internally. There's really no effect for that. It is heat resistant, but let's say, and we have some that are bumped up against range hoods or ovens. We will go by the manufacturer guidelines underneath that are done for each particular, let's say, hood, range, or surface that's being cooked with. But again, we have put this as an application that is next to cooktops. It is not a surface, nor any of our surfaces would you take a hot pan out of an oven that you would just never, it is not designed to be set on there directly. That will ruin the top. If it's too hot for your hand, I always say, please use, a type of trivet or something like that.
That's good to know. And it sounds like you're really taking this case by case as well to see what works best for each project.
Correct.
Amazing. I know you had answered this in the Q&A box, but I think it's worth stating here. What is the maximum size available with no seams?
Okay, so for all of our wood staves, most of them, or the lengths of the boards that we use in our flat grain or edge grain construction, are about 120 inches or 10 feet. So we can make a single profile about 120 inches without a seam. Beyond that, there are seams that would come in. Every so often, we can source wood that would be in 15-foot lengths. That's rare. It's a custom. We have to go to a particular mill to do so. But you can go about 10 feet without a seam.
Amazing. We actually had another question come in asking about the anvil finish. Can it be applied to a finished wood cabinet, or does it need to be directly applied onto raw wood?
So yeah, it has to be applied directly toward raw wood. It cannot be applied to something that already has a finish or an oil on it, because it adheres molecularly to the fibers of the wood itself, so that for the proper seal and the proper permanence.
That's good to know. With that in mind, is there a specific wood species that works better with this finish? I know you showed the grain. Is there anything either aesthetically or even just meticulously with the actual technology that works better?
Not particularly for the raw wood. If we're going to be doing things, obviously things with a denser grain profile that have fewer external graining are going to appear smoother. But then my point is, as a designer, I wouldn't want, I'm not going to spend the money on a piece of wood that may not have a grain profile just to then spray it and have metal on top of it. Things that we've seen the most success with as far as grain profile coming through in a very beautifully aesthetic way, things like white oak, some of the woods that we're using in the Sapele area, ash to a degree, things that have a very tight grain profile like a Wenge or something like this, where you're not seeing a lot of that. Not probably a good fit, also extraordinarily expensive.
Completely understandable. I know you had mentioned that brass has been one of the most popular finishes. Do you see that changing, or is there maybe another finish that is, about to take over?
Yes, so brass has been very popular and will continue to be, or what we call Magnum. What we've seen is this combination of our very light white oak and a silver. So we've seen several designers making that combination where you'll have the white oak flat grain, and then the edge will be one of our silver. We're also seeing, and we may have more on this later this year, we're looking at sort of a rusted iron look or something like a distressed bronze look, which are available. The iron, we're still working on getting that actually perfect, but we're seeing that come back. It's sort of a darker, more moody aspect that could be added on to a wood piece to sort of go with that aesthetic that we're seeing for 2025, 2026.
That's exciting to hear that you're expanding and already looking forward to the next different types of finishes that you can offer.
Stay tuned. I do not have dates currently. It's in testing phase. When we do, we will make a blast notice.
Amazing. You did mention the edge banding. I know someone had a question just about that process and how you go about adding that.
So the edge banding is done. So there was one image in there, but what it is we will take the edges and each of the boards, let's say there were 5 floating shelves, and we will stack them together on end, compress them, and then spray the edges all the way around. This is pre-finish so that there's a clean break on that edge banding there. It's sprayed, then finished with the Dorada clear coat. We don't normally want that open because of fingerprints and such. And then those pieces are separated and the tops are finished off afterward.
Thank you for that insight. That's really interesting
Sure.
to to hear how you do that. Um,
Hands.
exactly. We had a question about if people are able to buy the hoods directly through you to avoid the middleman. So are you able to buy the hood and get the finish applied?
At this point, the agreement as such with Stanisi that we came out with earlier is really they are marketing Grothouse sprayed hoods through their process. To be honest, I am not as knowledgeable of the details of exactly where they're going and how that's working. My understanding is you would order from Stanisi, they would send it to us and send it back for the spray process, and then it would just get directly sent to the client. I can find out more information on that, but that's what I understand currently. But no, you wouldn't buy it directly from us.
Okay, we appreciate that insight. Um,
Sure.
someone asked, do you ship outside of the US to Canada?
We can. Yep, we have in the past. Just again, it becomes a custom shipping, but we do a lot of work, obviously in Vancouver. We've had great relationships with Downsview, which is up in Canada, and other areas. We have a couple pieces in London, Tokyo, and in Moscow. It's a whole other story, but we can. Yes.
Amazing. And then we can finish up with this last question here, just in general with the company. Are there any other wood products that you can do this finish for? I know you showed a lot of countertops, bookshelves. Is it limitless, endless that you can apply this to, or is there something specific that this is best for?
It really is great for it. The best application for it is onto a wood piece for accent. That's why we kind of show some of the furniture pieces. So those are pieces that we would make. And we will spray things for clients. Let's say you as a designer or one of the team has something specific that you would like to have sprayed. We can provide pricing for that. We will also ask questions about, okay, exactly what it is. You may have a custom door or something like this. We have done that. And we did a very large entertainment unit in Miami last year. We did not build all of it, but we sprayed it all.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you to the audience for just giving us all of those great questions. Before we leave
Mhm.
today, I wanted to give you the floor, Sam, and see if you had any last words for our members.
No, just keep thinking of us. Often the best thing is if you can think of an idea, reach out to us. Reach out to your, the general box or call us. Our job is not to say no. It's our job is to figure out how to make it happen. We're pretty good at that. And if it's not something that we can do, we will find a workaround for you. But just, yeah, again, just keep thinking of us. We're seeing this as an expanding part of our business, but overall the design community across the country. And thank you.
Amazing. Yes,
Thank
Sam,
you.
I appreciate it. And to everyone that attended, you will be getting Sam's contact information in our follow-up email today. So you'll have that opportunity to reach out and get some more of your questions answered.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye, guys. See you out in the field. Thanks. Bye.